So, I definitely see art and design as playing a major role in advancing social justice in Baltimore. This summer, the Youth Resiliency Institute, once again, we worked in Cherry Hill. We had a cultural arts leadership camp. And I never forget speaking to the young people, males and females, about the Trayvon Martin verdict.
Mm-hmm.
And what was interesting, for me, was how these amazing young people who live in this community that is demonized,
Mm-hmm.
they immediately recognized that one of their concerns related to the Trayvon Martin verdict in Baltimore City was the fact that they had not been invited to share their wisdom, to share their opinions about what happened to Trayvon and what indeed happens to them every day in Cherry Hill, in Brooklyn, in Westport, and other places in Baltimore. So they used the tool of literary arts. And they wrote. The young women broke into their own group, the young men broke into another group, and they, addressed the issue from gender perspective or a gender lens. And then they came back together and they wrote a beautiful poem about what it was that they felt about the Trayvon Martin verdict, and how it affects them in their immediate community. And they sent that off to television stations, media outlets who did not invite them to share their wisdom. Now, this was not something that we asked them to do. They just recognized the importance of, the art that lives within them, the importance of agency, and how to exercise art, exercise the agency that lives within them, hopefully so as to affect change. And they're not finished. The work continues. And that was probably, one of the most powerful aspects of the camp this summer for me. And so I do believe that art, and that's just one minor instance where art can indeed affect change in Baltimore City. So the question for me then becomes is how can we create more opportunities for young people and their families, once again, who possess solutions, to share those solutions and to be properly respected and honored and seen as, full-fledged members of Baltimore's cultural earth.
Yes.
So often, things are framed, at least in Baltimore City, from a deficit-based lens.
Mm-hmm.
How can we fix those single mamas? How can we fix those black children in the inner harbor? And to be able to turn the lens around and for young people to say no, and for the family members to say no, how can we fix you?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be dangerous. But social justice is about taking those chances and recognizing that, hey, self-determination lives within me. And so I'm going to be self-determined, and I'm going to work with other self-determined folk. And we're going to create change, and we're going to have fun in the process. Musically, we're going to dance if needed. But it's going to work.
I feel that we have a little ways to go in Baltimore. I feel that the equity in Baltimore is not, there's some balance that needs to happen. Those who have programming, those who run the foundations, those who run things are not always the same race or creed or class of the people that they're serving. And they're not always asking, they're telling them what they need, but they're not asking them and empowering them. Programming in different communities being led by the people in that community is not happening and not funded properly. And that's an issue of equity, which is social injustice. I feel that Baltimore has a long way to go because we still celebrate European classical culture as superior here and in the world, really, but that's another story. And that's an issue because Baltimore has its own culture. There are different races here that are not that do not have an avenue to express themselves. I mean, we had a festival, the Youth Art Harvest Festival, where we had different races and different cultures present, youth from different cultures present. But that's not common here in Baltimore, where everyone's seeing each other and communicating with each other through art. It's more, it's very divided and segregated in regards to opportunities and knowing about opportunities in the arts here. And so that to me is an injustice to the arts here. So that's an issue for me. So on the top level of just people who are creative and people who are educating people in the arts to program into opportunities with grants and different contractual opportunities there's not a lot of equity in that. So that itself is a problem. And if that is happening, then what do we say about the youth receiving the art authentically from the people that look like them, from programming that's led by people who look like them, so they feel a sense of identity and connection. Not to say that you can't work with people outside of your race, but just a lack of respect of determining what these children need. I'm saying you need this. That's colonialism again. And that's a big problem in this world. And so we can't perpetuate that same thing that is the big white elephant of America, the big secret of America that is really very negative and has impacted people of color, Native American, Africans who live here, us who live here, African Americans, and the kind of quiet, silent, hush-hush secret of how America was built. And so there's a dishonor here, and it's still perpetuated through the arts and opportunities to teach and have programming and lead programming and receive proper funding in Baltimore. So I feel there's still an issue and still work to be done.